So today, welcome to Transformational Vedic Astrology, as taught in American Institute of Vastu.com. Uh, we're going to be looking at the very interesting chart of Vincent Van Gogh. And so he was born on March 30th, 1853, 11 a.m. in the Netherlands. And when he was born, if you look to the eastern horizon, you would see the constellation associated with Gemini rising at 29 degrees and 21 minutes. So any planet that's within 5 degrees of that 29 degrees, either like 26 to 5 degrees, has a lot of impact in his chart. So we see Jupiter, Moon, Mars, Mercury are within 5 degrees. And so they all have a lot of impact, as well as the nodes, the south node and the north node of the moon, Rahu and Ketu, are also within that 5 degrees. So Gemini is said to be a very good rising sign because only functional malefics. There are no malefic planets ruling the 6th, the 8th, or the 12th house. So only malefics in the chart are Rahu and Ketu. But in Van Gogh's case, Rahu and Ketu are causing a lot of trouble. They're afflicting 6 of his 12 houses because they're within 5 degrees. So this 29 degrees is not an arbitrary number. It becomes the most effective point of every house. So Rahu is afflicting the first house. It's within 5 degrees of that first house. It's afflicting the 5th house, the 7th house, and the 9th house. And K2 is afflicting the 7th house and the 11th house and the 1st house and the 3rd house. So all of these houses can become challenging in his birth chart. So let's first look and see how the planets are operating in his chart, and then we'll look at when the planets were operating in certain events in his life. So Sun is at 17 degrees. It's fairly strong and well placed. It's ruling the 3rd house of business and communications and fine arts and healing arts and performing arts. And this is also the house of siblings. So he got good support from his father, helped him become a preacher. I think his father was a preacher, helped him try to sell some of his art. His brother supported him for a long period of time. So good support from father, son, brother, and abilities in the fine arts, in painting, and that's placed in his career house. So career through fine arts, basically. And this is also the house that has to do with working with your hands. So he was drawing with his hands and doing the art. Now, Moon is at 28 degrees. Any planet that's more than 25 degrees becomes old age, cannot protect or promote its own significations. And any planet that's less than 5 degrees, like Mercury or Jupiter, becomes in adolescence, and young kids cannot support or protect their own signification. So Moon is close to the most effective point, so it has some impact, but it's weak, and it rules this house of wealth and recognition, fame, continuation of the family. So it's weak, caused delays for his wealth and his fame. And in fact, if we look at his chart after he died, the chart lives on, and he became, very famous after he died because he was in different, better planetary periods. So let's see here. So and then also Moon being weak, placed in the sixth house, gave internal mental conflict and emotional conflict. So lack of peace of mind. Moon is mind and emotions. Mars is at 4 degrees, just slightly weak, ruling the house of income and friends, social connections, and it's placed in the career house. So Mars and it's within 5 degrees of Venus. So it gave some passion, some energy to Venus, which is the creating beauty through the art. Now Mars is also cutting. He cut his ear off. If we were to look at the transit chart, we could probably see Mars was probably going through, the house that has to do with ears, and he also shot himself. So the passion has to be controlled. Mercury is at 3 degrees. It's out of control. 3 degrees. So also weak, close to the most effective point. So has some impact. And it is placed in this house of income and friends. So Mercury is ruling the house of happiness through family. So there definitely less happiness and but Mercury is communication, so he did have income through, little as it was and delayed as it was, through his ability to communicate his emotions through art. And then this also could, it is afflicted by K2. And so K2 is afflicting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's within 5 degrees. So it's giving some mental instability, depression. Let's see. So Jupiter is at 2 degrees. And it is ruling and placed in its own sign of partnerships and relationships. So it's very weak. He did not have children. Basically, when Jupiter is really weak, it can deny children. And it did cause challenges in all of his relationships. Let's see here. Venus is at 6 degrees. Now, Venus rules this house of creativity, and it is, like we said before, conjunct Mars in the house of career. So Venus is one of his strong planets, so gave him a lot of creativity for fine art. But I think because Mars is so close to that, it made it difficult for him to have relationships. He had no wife. But did have the passion to create the art. Let's see here. Saturn is at 24 degrees, ruling the house of good fortune and religion, placed in the house of income. So part of his life he had income, some income, meager as it was through preaching. And he had some religious affinity. I think his dad might have been a preacher. I'm not positive. So the big one again is, Gemini is a good chart, but Rahu and Ketu causing a lot of trouble in the chart. Rahu can, when it's weak and causing a lot of affliction, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 afflicting children, denying children. 6, 7 causing trouble in relationships, and gives addictive qualities. I think he was an alcoholic, and then so K2 is afflicting Mercury and income, causing, K2 gives more spirituality but less material income. So affecting all of those things. Now let's look at the timing of events. So if we look in, this is the planetary dasha periods. And if we look way back when, I think he died in he died in this period here. So if we look way back when, he cut off his ear, and that was during a Mars period. Again, cutting, and Mars was transiting the house that has to do with ears. And then his best friend left him in 80, also in 88. I think that was also during a Mars period. And then he went mad and was needed to be hospitalized in the 90s. So 89 and 90. So that was also a Mars period. Let's just see what was the sub period. So let's see. Yeah, so I think Moon Rahu. So Moon instability of the mind. Rahu is addiction and calamities, and cutting off his ear, and and he shot himself, committed suicide on 7/29/90, and died a couple days later in the hospital. So if we look at that, July 29th, 1990, you see K2 and Rahu are afflicting this house of end of life, the 12th house, and 6 out of the 12 houses. So they're also, whenever Rahu and K2 close to the most effective point, they're causing a lot of issues. So not only in the birth chart, but the transit chart. So all the houses are being afflicted and causing a lot of issues. And so, yeah, not a good time for him. You see, K2 is right on top of natal K2, transit K2. Transit K2 is afflicting natal, Rahu is afflicting natal Rahu. And then I think Mercury's right in there, or Moon. Yeah, just a lot of issues. So anyway, very interesting chart. What we could have done to improve the chart would be strengthen all the benefic planets with gemstones and colors, and that would have helped with his income, his business abilities. Mars, if you strengthen Mars with red colors and red coral, and an or kavash that contains a locket that contains the Devata yantra for Mars, Moon, Sun, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn. All these different areas of life could have been improved, and maybe he would have gotten the recognition during his lifetime and not after. And then Rahu and Ketu doing charities. I think he had less trouble when he was preaching because he was doing a lot of charity work. So, we don't want to strengthen the malefics, the Rahu and Ketu. We want to do chants and charities. And then the rest of the planets we want to strengthen through colors and gemstones or kavash. So that's it for his chart. If you're interested in a reading, you can go to www.vastucreations.com. Under services, there's lots of different kind of readings, a yearly reading, a life reading, a 3-year reading, etc. And if you want to learn transformational Vedic astrology, which I feel is very, very accurate and easy to learn, you can go to American Institute of Vastu, and we have certification program and 2 levels of learning astrology. So thank you for listening, and take care.